It's 104.9 Coyote Country. Robert Miguel with you here. Time for another installment of Fanboy Friday. So welcome once again from Dallas, Texas, professional Q&A moderator, speaker, film critic at BigFanboy.com, and show director at Dallas Comic Show, Mark Walters. Good morning, sir.
What is up?
How you doing, man? I heard you were under the weather a little bit. How you doing?
Yeah, I've been dealing with some. I think I want to believe that it's more allergies than it is like being like legit sick, because
Right.
it's mostly like respiratory type stuff. But if I sound a little off, that's the reason.
You sound great, but it is that time of year. I always get a little bit of the funk. You know what I mean? This time of year, a little bit in the spring, a little bit in the fall. Nothing, some honey and tea and cilantro won't clear up.
It's still nice to have some cooler weather, considering how hot it's been over the summer. So I'm dealing with it.
Absolutely, I'll take it for the team for sure. All right, so let's talk about what's going on in theaters this weekend. Looks like the big one is going to be Murder on the Orient Express. You got any information about that, big boy?
Well, I personally have not seen it, but I did send a critic to review it, and she enjoyed it quite a bit. She said that she thought it was very entertaining. Probably the only real problem with it, if there is any, she said that the ending was a little bit weak. If you've seen the original film, or if you know the story really well, it's kind of one of those stories where, you know, there's not any huge surprises in terms of how it plays out. So it's more about the journey to get there. And but she, you know, she did say that it's a great cast. You know, everybody kind of plays well off each other. She said that there are certainly moments where Kenneth Branagh, who of course plays Hercule Poirot, who's the lead character in the story, she said there are moments in the film where it does feel like he's kind of focusing the camera a little bit too much on himself and not some of the other players in the story. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But, you know, maybe that's just because he is the most interesting character in the film. So I'm definitely going to go check it out when I get a chance this weekend, because I love these kinds of movies. And one of the things that I love about these kinds of movies is it sort of reminds us of like the more classic film, the more classic age of filmmaking. And so it gives us kind of a classic throwback feel. And she said that that's one of the things that really succeeds in it. If you like older murder mystery type movies, that it's definitely one of the films that you'll enjoy.
Well, the cast certainly looks amazing. You got Willem Dafoe, Judi Dench, Johnny Depp, and then of course Penelope Cruz. Who, if I'm doing close-ups on anybody, my close-ups are going to be on Penelope Cruz for show.
Important too to tell people that not to get into too much spoiler territory, but if you're going to this to see Johnny Depp, he's not in it all that much, and you can probably guess why. But just so you know, it's more of a cameo, I think. Okay. Excuse me, with Johnny Depp than it is really like a starring role. So there is that.
And I'm excited. Also, Daisy Ridley from Star Wars is in there as well. So that's kind of cool to see her doing something else.
I guess this is technically like her first big role outside of Star Wars, right? Like, because I don't think we've really seen her in anything else other than Star Wars up until this point. So this will be an interesting test to see, you know, how does she fare outside of that genre? You know, does she hold her own against the other actresses and whatnot? So I'm definitely anxious to see how she does there.
So there you go. Murder on the Orient Express, out in theaters this weekend, rated PG. Now, you said you sent a reviewer. Has that review been posted up on BigFanboy.com yet?
Yes, it is posted on BigFanboy.com. You can read it right now.
All right, very good. Another big release this week is Daddy's Home 2. Now, I don't know if you saw the first one. I'm a dad, and me and my daughter just love the first one so much. Of course, Mark Wahlberg, Will Ferrell, as kind of opposing dads. And now the sequel just looks hilarious as well. What do you think about this thing?
Well, I mean, come on. Let's talk about the casting. I mean, the fact that you've got John Lithgow playing Will Ferrell's father, that in and of itself, I mean, I would buy a ticket just to go see this.
Absolutely.
But then you add in, like, Mel Gibson.
Yes.
Mark Wahlberg's father. It's like, okay, now I'm totally sold. And then, you know, the one thing that they're not playing up really big in the trailers, but it's definitely in the movie, is that John Cena is also in the movie. And we've seen John Cena do some funny, you know, comedic roles lately, and I'm anxious to see him in this, because I think, you know, trying to hold his own with all those other actors, I think that should be interesting to watch. But I think I'm most excited about like I said, seeing John Lithgow and Mel Gibson kind of ham it up for the camera, I'm definitely anxious to see that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, this is definitely the one I'm most excited about because, I've got a daughter at home. She's 11 years old, rated PG-13. However, I'm going to bring the kid out there and see Daddy's Home 2 for sure as kind of a daddy-daughter date. So that's definitely on my to-do list this weekend. The other big release is going to be Amanda and Jack Go Glamping. Now, I have no idea what glamping even is, but I know this movie's got an Arquette in it, so that's got to be kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it's basically about a couple that's trying to rekindle their relationship, and they go on a camping trip. And, of course, things don't go well, but because things don't go well, it kind of helps them, sort of find a balance between themselves and whatnot. It's sort of a smaller independent film, but I'm hearing really, really great things about it. David Arquette in the lead role. Amy Acker, who used to be on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
All right,
she's actually playing the secondary role. She's from Dallas, Texas.
All right, go Dallas.
Wonderful actress, yeah, former Dallas actress. So, and she's a wonderful actress. So I'm kind of anxious to see this. I think this is going to be one of those buzz films that, it's probably not going to get a huge release, but if it's playing in a theater near you, go check it out, because I think it's going to be a film that a lot of people are going to be talking about. And everything I've heard about it but even from people in the industry that have seen advanced copies of it and whatnot, everybody's saying it's really, really good.
All right, so that's Amanda and Jack Go Glamping, limited release out in theaters as well this weekend. And I did want to talk to you about this. Kind of might be a touchy subject for some, but I know that you have ties to a lot of the Hollywood directors, actors, and the promotional machine therein. But man, this Kevin Spacey thing is just crazy. From what I understand, there's even newer news about the whole Kevin Spacey and his alleged and now kind of admitted advances towards young men in Hollywood.
I think we've passed the point of the quote unquote alleged
right.
moniker at this point. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at it because it's not funny, but it's definitely one of those things where it just seems like every day more and more comes out. There was news this week. There's I forget where she's based. I want to say she's based out in California, but there was a news reporter who apparently her son had a run-in with him at some point, or actually it was one of those things where, like, I guess he had taken her son and was giving him drinks. He was like 18 at the time. He was giving him drinks and was going to try to take him, back to his house. And the kid ended up escaping and getting away from it. But it was something that, this just happened last year. This happened a year ago.
Wow.
So it kind of tells you that it's like, not only has this been happening, but this has been happening, like, consistently, or at the very least, it's been happening up until a very recent point. And so that's where I think the concern really comes into play. On top of that, now there's a new movie that's coming out called All the Money in the World, and Kevin Spacey he's in this film. They've already shown trailers for it, but the studio has decided that they're going to recast the character. They're going to reshoot the scenes. They've cast Christopher Plummer to take his place. And now the one thing I understand is that I don't think he had a whole lot of scenes in this movie. I think his scenes were pretty limited. Mm-hmm. So chances are, if they are in fact going back and reshooting it with a different actor, then it's probably a very limited amount of footage, because otherwise that would be a nightmare to have to do that, to go back and completely reshoot an actor's scene. And the movie comes out in like a month. So yeah. It's not like this is something they're doing that 6 months away or 12 months away. They're right on the cusp of having to release this thing, and I'm sure they're probably thinking, well, it's either that or we just scrap the movie altogether, because in the wake of a scandal like this, if you release that movie, nobody's going to go see it, or it's going to get boycotted. It would actually create more harm than good. So I think that they are doing the smart move, but I've been telling people, everybody that has talked to me about this, or whether it's this or the Harvey Weinstein incident, I think that you're gonna see more and more of this stuff. This is just the beginning. I think that we're gonna see a lot of big name stars, a lot of well known people. There's gonna be a lot of stuff coming out about people that we're gonna be really surprised by, and then maybe even a few that we're not surprised by. Some that are gonna be like, well, yeah, I could see that. It's going to really rock the industry, and I think it's because now we're living in a time where, because of Harvey Weinstein being exposed, that people are feeling more comfortable about coming forward, because that's been the number one thing, is that a lot of these women, and even some men that work in the industry, that have been victims of this sort of thing, this is one of those things pretty much destroy your career. And now, finally, after all these years, people are realizing that, no, there's people that will listen and that will do something about it. And so we're seeing kind of a change within the industry. But yeah, it's going to be kind of an ugly time. As all this stuff starts to come out more and more, it's going to be an ugly time. And there was something that came out even today. This was actually, I thought, somewhat shocking, but I don't know if you ever watched Smallville, but there was an actress on Smallville named Allison Mack, a blonde girl named Allison Mack, who is a very kind of innocent, wholesome-seeming girl. You know, the kind of person that if you saw her in interviews, she used to go to comic book conventions and sign autographs.
Well, you're talking about Chloe, right?
I'm talking about Chloe.
Yeah, oh my God, I love her.
It came out today that she was the number 2 person involved in this sex cult that's been going on for like years and years and years. Like, she's the person that was going out and recruiting girls. And it's just like, oh my God.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, there's more and more of this stuff that's just going to come out, and it's going to get a lot uglier before it gets better. But I think that in a weird sort of way, you know, this is one of those necessary things that has to happen for the system to fix itself. You know, we're going to have to hear some pretty ugly stories, and find out about some pretty ugly things, and get rid of some pretty ugly people.
Now Mark, but let me say this. Can we really be that surprised? I mean, we're talking about an industry, Hollywood, that has been making films depicting the casting couch and the sleaziness of Hollywood directors and producers for decades. I mean, the movies have, I mean, how many movies how many movies represent Hollywood as sleazeballs, but why are we acting as a society so surprised that it actually is this way?
I don't think it's so much that we're acting surprised as I think we're finally realizing that, you know, enough is enough. I mean, like, this has been going on for such a long period of time, and a lot of people have fallen into the wake of this, and it's gotten to the point now where, you know, it's not just damaging people's careers or, you know, damaging people for life and whatnot. I mean, these guys, you know, when you hear about some of the things that Harvey Weinstein has done, and when you hear, like, some of the recordings that have been made of him, I mean, this guy was a sick man. I mean, he really, you know, this has been a long time coming with a guy like that. And honestly, I mean, the only reason that stuff like this takes as long as it does, and the only reason that it hasn't come forward sooner, is because these guys have a lot of power. You know, they have a lot of power and influence in the industry, and people are genuinely scared of that. And I mean, you know what? I would be too. My involvement in this industry is so minuscule by comparison to some of these other people. But I mean, I've had situations before. I mean, just to give you an idea, where I've written a film review, and I had a producer, like a very high position producer, very like a well-known guy, that emailed me the very next day and was bitching me out because of my review.
Oh, wow.
I kind of thought, like, you know, it's very strange because in a weird way it's almost like a high school mentality. Like, you know, this is a guy that had millions upon millions of dollars. What does he care what I write about his film? But, I mean, that right there goes to show you that, you know, when these guys get this kind of power, you know, they don't want anybody challenging them. They don't want anybody trying to go up against them. And that's a scary thing because especially when they have that kind of money and that kind of influence and the kind of things that they could do, I mean, destroying careers and who knows, maybe worse. I mean, you know, somebody was saying they were going to speak out against them and they were like, yeah, well, let's take care of that. It's not so much that we never knew that it happened. I mean, yeah, we knew that it happened. But it was kind of one of those like, well, what do we do about it? I mean, how do we solve it? How do we fix it? And there's never really been an answer. And so hopefully now, you know, that those discussions are starting to come up and be put on the table to where, you know, we can prevent this sort of thing from happening again. We can prevent, you know, actresses and actors from being taken advantage of. And better yet, you know, maybe this will also help people be more cautious about going into these situations where, you know, I mean, you hear a lot of these stories where, you know, some actress says, oh, yeah, he took me back to his hotel room or told me to come to his hotel room for an audition. And people are reading these stories and they're like, oh, my God, why would you do that? It's like, well, you know, you don't understand what it's like in that moment. I mean, people don't know that they're being taken advantage of until it's happening. And so, you know, it's hopefully this will help prevent that in the future, or at the very least, you know, cut it down to a minimum. But again, like I said, Robert, I'm telling you, man, we have only scratched the surface. There's going to be so much more of this stuff coming out.
feel like Hollywood has been kind of on a high horse as far as telling the average Joe what's right, what's wrong, how we should view our politics, you know what I mean? And I think it's interesting that we're going to kind of, I guess, flush out the hypocrites, so to speak. I hate that anybody was taken advantage of. And again, my question earlier wasn't so much in any defense of these scumbags. It's more about, hey, you know, why did it take so long? How come people stayed silent for so long? And why do people seem like they're surprised? It's mind-blowing to me. But yes, I hope that these guys just, they get recognized, and I hope they go down and they stay down.
Well, and I will say this, too, just kind of to play off of the whole why does it take so long and whatnot, because that is often a question when it comes to things like rape and sexual assault. And I think the number one reason for that is I think that, most of the time this happens with women. Mm-hmm. And with women, I think that they're scared, they're afraid, they don't know if anyone's going to believe them. That's the number one problem, because especially in Hollywood, I mean, for decades now, going back to the beginning days of Hollywood, it's always kind of been a bit of a boys' club. And so, when things like this happen and women are scared to speak up, they're scared to speak up because they don't want to destroy their career before it even gets started. And they probably also, to some degree, don't really know what to do. I mean, like if this kind of situation happened, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, what's the procedure? How do you deal with it?
Right.
Do you go to a lawyer? Do you go to a police department? Do you go? I mean, where exactly do you go to start the process? And there's so many cases like this where women will call the police or they'll talk to a lawyer, and they're told to just let it go.
Right. Well, they're talking to Hollywood lawyers, and of course they're going to be. They know the way it works. They know how the system works. So yeah, they're going to say, hey man, hey lady, if you want to be in this business, just these are things you've got to deal with, and that's really sad and unfortunate. And let's hope this revolutionizes the whole industry.
Yeah, a lot of those Hollywood lawyers are already in the pockets of the producers and the people that are doing this stuff, and so yeah, it's really scary. But I just hope, I genuinely hope that people that are trying to get into this business, or people that are, or any business, because, I mean, let's face it, this isn't just Hollywood.
Right, sure.
I mean, this happens all over the place. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's still problems with sexual harassment in the workplace. So I just hope that people will be more cautious about it, and I hope that we are maybe entering a time period where people are realizing that it's okay to speak up. It's okay to say something. It's okay to go public with something, because there are people out there that will listen, and then we'll try to help. And I think that we as a society are becoming more observant of that. And I'd like to think that, people that get into those situations, they can bend our ear and they can tell us what's going on, and we will try to help them. So that's the most important thing, I think, that comes out of this, is that, hopefully these guys will get, called out for what they're doing. But more importantly, I hope people realize that, there are people here to help.
Well, absolutely, and I do appreciate you talking with me about this. I know this is a kind of a sensitive subject, but I know you have some insight on it, and I do appreciate you talking about it with me here. So tell me, on a lighter subject, what you got going on BigFanboy.com these days? Any new reviews, any new content you can brag about?
No, nothing terribly exciting. I mean, we did post a couple of new trailers up this week. There's a new Steven Spielberg movie called The Post, which has got an amazing cast. It's got Meryl Streep, Tom Hanks, just a ton of really, really cool people.
They're saying this is going to be the big award winner, probably, right?
Yeah, I have a feeling it will be. I have a feeling this is going to be a film that you want to kind of place your bets on. But we posted that and a couple other trailers, and then I was out at Austin over the weekend. I went to MondoCon last weekend, which is kind of like a big screen print movie poster type convention. And that was a lot of fun. So, but yeah, nothing terribly exciting right now. Hopefully I'll have some more news for you next week. And just geared up for Justice League, Dan. Can't wait.
Well, I wanted to let you know that I saw Thor Ragnarok over the weekend, and of course it was exactly as you mentioned. It was amazing. Already seen it twice. So yeah, totally stoked about that. I cannot wait to give them more and more of my money. So of course Justice League coming out soon, and then of course Star Wars soon thereafter. So yes, there is lots on the horizon. So thanks for giving a check-in, even though it is a slow week, but we've got a lot of good stuff in the horizon.
Really.
Once again, let's give it up one more time for professional Q&A moderator and speaker, film critic at BigFanboy.com, and show director at Dallas Comic Show. Once again, Mr. Mark Walters, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Rob.